Welcome back, guys. It's the end of the month, which means it's the end to another Speed Duel League win-a-box. This time win-a-box number 6, the largest win-a-box ever. Yet again, we had 81 players come out. Well, I guess technically, I think 87 signed up. But after like the first round and stuff, only 81 had actually submitted deck lists. So we'll just go with that. Only 81 players actually played. So we'll go with that number. But that beats the previous record, which I think was like 67 or so. So this is now the largest win-a-box of all time. Win-a-box number 7 hopefully can beat that record. Who knows? But it definitely goes to show that a lot of people are coming out for the Battle City box, and it has definitely been a really good set and getting a lot of people into the game, at least for now. So we had 81 people play. There was a top 16 cut, and then that led to this match here. So about 4 weeks, almost exactly, of competition led to this finals, which will wrap up this tournament. So we have got Ninjetti Ursus at the top and Shrink at the bottom. Ninjetti Ursus making his first appearance in a win-a-box top cut, and Shrink making his second. I believe he also topped, or I believe he did also top the Speed Duel League series. So this should be a good match. We'll go ahead and get into it here. Oof, fast rock, paper, scissors. That's what you like to see. Go back and watch the last win-a-boxes. They usually take a lot longer for some reason. But this is going to be an XYZ Union mirror match. Some people love it. Most probably hate it. They kind of remind me a little bit of like Christian mirror matches. Yeah, so you got Ursus literally bringing it up there in the comment section. Can kind of feel a little bit like the Christian mirror matches, but Shrink won the coin toss, or sorry, not the coin toss, the rock, paper, scissors, and elected to go second. Usually a good blind going second. I don't know, for XYZs, I kind of like going first because I can like do my whole play. I think I have sound off here. I can do my whole play and not like have it interrupted. Like as you see here, Ursus just went full combo. He's got everything out, the Union Hanger and whatnot. And he doesn't have to worry about anything. Pitched a X with the Foolish Barrel, so he has access to anything that he wants on his following turn. Shrink also has a Union Hanger here. But see, one thing about going second is that Shrink has to play into back row. Like if if Ursus had Dust Tornado or Cosmic Cyclone or something that could pop this Union Hanger, this play wouldn't even happen. And it would all be because Shrink chose to go second. So, but going second, gets you the draw as well. So if neither of you see Union Hanger, if you're going second, you might be able to get your Union Hanger first. So there's arguments for both sides. But Ursus having 2 of those back row and not popping anything, like not stopping any of this play, is definitely, I would have been worried if I was Shrink getting booked or having the Union Hanger not resolve. But Shrink thinking, so they've pretty much mirrored each other. Shrink just hasn't sent any back, and he goes into the battle phase, so Shrink will have no back row. He's swinging into 2 back row. I feel like because Ursus is just going to let it happen, so they're both going to use their Zs, but they're both still live due to the Union combination skill. I feel like the fact that Ursus probably doesn't have Book or like Dust or Cyclone, because I feel like he would have used it to disrupt Shrink's combo. Even though Book isn't the best at disrupting it, but it's still okay. So let's see here. So Ursus is just going to summon the Z. He can equip it to the Y and then just swing over the Y. I feel like Shrink probably has a Spheric Revo, just 4 cards in hand. Didn't set anything, probably Shrink. He's going to banish, though, for the YZ. Usually you would want to attach and not go into the fusion, so we'll see if he has a reason for that. Because you can just equip and then leave them. Usually XYZ monsters have 3 phases. They have like the monsters equipping on the field, the monsters being banished for the skill, and then the monsters being reused for Union Scramble, as you see here. Okay, so that's why he didn't equip them, is he banished them so that he could then bring them back with Union Scramble and swing here for damage. But that's definitely, the recursion is a big strength of the XYZ Union archetype. Here is that they can equip to each other off the Union Hanger opening play, and so you have to deal with the Y attached with the Z. Then after you deal with them, they're going to get banished to make a fusion. Then after you deal with that, they're going to be brought back with Union Scramble, and they could equip again, or they can be banished again with the skill. So there's a lot of recursion, and Ursus kind of skipped that first step, that equipping them, and just banished them right away so they could immediately bring them back with Union Scramble to get into this situation. So Shrink looks like he needs to check on something, let the dog out or something. He actually spheres. Okay, so here's one of the attack. He doesn't want to drop down to 400, and that kind of sucks because Shrink, I'm guessing, didn't know. He could have sphered the XY attack or the YZ attack and then left the. He would have had the Y Dragon Head in attack mode, which would have traded with one of these, but he didn't know this play was coming, and so he didn't sphere to protect the Y Dragon Head. So not that big of a deal, but it does kind of leave Ursus with a slightly better board condition here. Shrink's going to come down with a second Union Hanger, which is going to get him. Union Hanger so good, +2 basically. You could argue, given the context, it's like a +1 because like the Union Hanger doesn't do anything after fetching you the Y, but he's not even going to summon the Y. He is just going to summon the Z or summon the X and go straight into XYZ. I'm not sure if his hand is forcing him to do that because he had an X. We know that one card in his hand is a Y, but he's going to go into XYZ and he's going to look to try and blow up Ursus's board here. With XYZ, you got to constantly check the graveyard to see what they got. But the problem is Shrink is going to go off here and clear most of Ursus's board. Yeah, and then he's going to swing over one of these guys. The issue is that Ursus is just going to do it back to him the next turn because Ursus still has XYZ here that he can base. So Ursus is just going to do all of this back to Shrink next turn unless this face down card is like an Offerings or something. So here comes Ursus. He can also banish for Union Scramble to get probably the X back if he wanted to. Here we go. So YZ available for Shrink next turn, and then XYZ and a Union Scramble available for Ursus this turn, plus whatever's in his hand. So Ursus, yeah, I think just make the XYZ. I don't know his hand, but just make the XYZ here is probably the better play, and then pitch whatever is in his hand. He can also banish one. He has 2 Union Scrambles, which is definitely... Shrink hasn't seen any of his yet, I don't think, yeah. So he's got... Ursus just has more recursion here. Yeah, he can either pitch what's in his hand, or he can use Scramble. Yeah, just use Scramble, get one of the XYZs. That's a super common play. Did he banish both? So he's going to get 2 cards back. And he could potentially pop both cards that Shrink has here. So we got about the X and the Y, and he can pitch them with XYZ Dragon Cannon, and it doesn't really hurt him because they're in the graveyard. They're there for Union Combination next turn. So there's the X, forcing out Shrink's Union Scramble. Okay, guys, I'm back. That was work. A little busy. I mostly deal with taxes, and it's busy season, so we're getting swamped. Hopefully that was like sort of an instantaneous transition for you guys. For me, that was like an hour and a half, so I gotta figure out where we left off. Let's go ahead and start it back up. Okay, so Shrink scrambles. I believe he was forced to do that. So he was forced to scramble, gets his Y and his Z, or sorry, his Y and his X from his banish pile, and that is going to trigger the Union Hanger, which allows him to get Z. So just like that, he has XYZ all over again. But here comes Ursus, and that's just the recycling power of the Union Scramble. But down comes Ursus's XYZ. He's going to discard his Y to pop the XYZ on Shrink's side of the field. And then Ursus shouldn't... Right, he used the skill, so Ursus shouldn't be dealing any damage here. But he will be able to get rid of one of Shrink's monsters. Not really a big deal. Shrink is just probably going to make another XYZ next turn, and then here's Ursus's follow-up XYZ. So it looks like in the XYZ mirror match, it's almost like whoever makes XYZ first just loses, because most players only run 2. And so it'll basically be player A makes his first XYZ, player B then responds with their own first XYZ, and then player A has to make their second and last XYZ, and then player B responds with their second and last XYZ, and then player B has the XYZ on the field, and player A has to answer it, and more than likely player A won't be able to, or at least a big advantage is in the favor of player B in that scenario. So whoever makes their XYZ first probably loses. One thing that you can do in the mirror is you can run 3 XYZs. And that would give you, if your opponent's only running 2 and you have 3, it doesn't matter if you had to make your XYZ first or second, you just have more XYZs. But players run like offerings and stuff to pop the XYZs, or you can like book it and then, you know, use YZ's effect to pop face down monsters, and that's another way to get rid of the XYZ. But you need an out to the XYZ. But we'll see what happens here. Definitely Ursus is favored in my opinion, just because looking at the graveyards and what's about to happen, where it looks like Shrink can just make the XYZ here, and then Ursus can make his own follow-up XYZ, unless Shrink has a way to deal with this XYZ right now and doesn't have to use his second and final XYZ, and that's probably what Shrink is looking at, is seeing if he has anything to work with here so that he doesn't have to make, because the plays should just be obvious to both players, where it's like Shrink is thinking if there's a way for him to not have to make his XYZ. And we will find out. What is he banishing? He's in the graveyard. There's Y, there's Z, and there's X. Okay, so he's going to make his second XYZ. Possibly he's only out here. It also depends on what Ursus's face down is. But there's XYZ's effect. To get rid of Ursus's XYZ, one of the only ways that Shrink probably could get rid of the XYZ, and then because the skill was used, Shrink can't do any damage here. So it should just pass back over to Ursus, and he will make his second XYZ. And then that should be a very, very, I won't say that's game, but that is a very difficult spot for Shrink to get out of. Just looking at what he'll have left, because it doesn't, none of the fusions that he can make are bigger than XYZ. And so he'd have to get out of it with something else, like a book with YZ or an offerings, or I don't know, maybe he runs Widespread Ruin. Maybe a Night Assailant or something random, but Ursus would just pop it. Same thing with Widespread. Yeah, so Ursus is talking about hoping you don't play 3 XYZ. So that's kind of going on to both players kind of know what's going on here, where they're just going to go back and forth between XYZs. And Ursus is going to make his second, and then he's hoping that Shrink doesn't have a third, which would confirm that Ursus doesn't have a third as well. But Shrink is going to get the X back. Go ahead and put a little pressure down. Try and pop that back row. Why not? It gets chained. He's actually going to hit the Y. Interestingly enough, I think if Shrink had a third XYZ, that book would have been a really good... Yeah, I guess he only has 1 Union Scramble left. But if he could have booked it and then made YZ instead and pitched whatever this card is. Oh, I showed it. There's his third Union Scramble. There you go. That's what he needed to be able to make another XYZ. But he could have made like a YZ and popped the XYZ. Because YZ will discard 1 card and destroy 1 face down monster on the field. Does your opponent have to control it to pop it? Let's see. Discard 1 card, then target 1 face down monster opponent controls. Yeah. But so here goes Ursus. He's going to go and activate his Union combination to most likely make his XYZ. And then Shrink won't take any damage this turn, but he will need an answer to that XYZ on his following turn. And none of his XYZ pieces will get him out. He needs to top deck either a book or an offerings, I think, are the only 2 that he can top deck. Or, I mean, Widespread would get popped. Pretty much everything would get popped. But he does have plays. He does have things that he can banish to buy time. Or he only has used 1 Union Scramble, so he may just see... He is not going to set anything. I feel like not setting anything and not scooping most likely means that's a Sphere Kaiba. But we'll see. He could just be delaying the game. Always take as long as you can, because you never know if Ursus is going to DC. But he can take the Y attack. And then there's the Sphere Creepo, so he's going to steer that attack. I almost wonder if... Yeah, no, he didn't have anything. He could Union Scramble, but I don't think that... Nope. Couldn't do anything to get a fusion out, unfortunately. You could just Union Scramble into X. And Shrink would have 100 life. But we'll see what Shrink... Shrink, again, has materials to banish here. has an X, Y, and a Z, but he doesn't have an X, Y, Z, and the extra deck. He has access to the other 4 that he has. So, again, a book. How many books has he seen? None. So he has options here. He's got... And then I think he has a Union Scramble to banish. He would need something to banish. Never mind, he doesn't have a Union Scramble, so he can't even get a card to banish there. And he's not going for one anyway, he's going for the face down Spell and Trap Cone. So he's got the XZ. He's gonna swing over the Y. And then there, so he did top deck the offerings. So I don't know if that's his only one, but he did get it to get rid of the XYZ. And so now this kind of swings back over to Shrink's favor, where Shrink, I think, can make an XZ of his own here. We'll see. He's got 1X. He doesn't have an X. He just banished Union Scramble, and he didn't use it to get back an X. So I feel like, okay, so he's got offerings himself. And that should just be game. Then, yep. Okay, he scoops. Well, a little lucky, but I think that Ursus had... He could have banished the Union Scramble and gotten back the X and made his own XZ. And then Shrink would have had to skip his draw phase. So I think no matter what happened there, the top deck offerings was really good, but I don't think it actually mattered in terms of deciding who was going to win that game, I think. Ursus just got a little too much of control of the game there. But this is game 2, so the sides are going to come in. The most popular side is definitely going to be Lost Win, so look for that. Because everyone is using offerings in main now. Was that not a thing? People should have been running offerings. So Shrink lost, which means he let Ursus go first again. So Shrink wants to go second in the mirror match. I feel like you want to go first, but it all just depends on if you're confident opening up Union Anger. If not, then go second, because you'll get an extra draw to try and get it. But if you think you're going to open it, you want to go first to like get your board set up and not let it get booked or dust or Cosmic Cyclone or something. But he's going to swing. It is going to be the Y, so he's not going to get over it. He's going to take the 100. Not really a big deal. Ursus is going to see an X, though, off the top deck, which is going to give him the monster advantage. We'll see if Shrink has Book here or something to protect. So he's got Book. I was going to say offerings or Book would have worked there. And then he's just going to trade Ys. That's fine for Ursus because he still has access to that Y. He still has X and he has Y. And then we'll see if Shrink just sets a card and passes, so he doesn't have a monster. So he's just stuck on the Y right now. Neither player has seen their Union combination. Ursus sees another Y. Definitely a better opening for Ursus here. You can just see here where you've got 3 monsters, 3 back row, and then it looks like Shrink has 1 monster, 4 back row, and then 1 card in his hand, which I think is a back row card, because otherwise he would have used it. So Shrink has to think. He's got stuff. He's got cards that he can activate. He might have a Steer Karibo in the hand. Might have another Book. Might have offerings. Might have... so there's the offerings. Not really ideal to have the offerings and X head there. He's got 2 offerings. Okay. So he had 2 offerings, a Book, and a Y. That's honestly pretty bad. Like, Shrink is going to have to skip his draw phase, and he used it. Using offerings isn't that bad, but having to offerings a basically 1500 vanilla and an 1800 vanilla is really bad. And you can see here, he just banishes them. Like, he didn't even actually get rid of them. He just changed how Ursus had to use them. So that's honestly just like a -1 or a -2. He lost both offerings. They didn't really do anything, and then he had to skip his draw phase, which just like sucks really bad. So I don't know. That's definitely, and to me, it signals that Shrink is in a really bad spot, having to offerings those. Maybe just like offerings 1, but might as well just stack them both, I guess. I don't know. Not really an ideal situation to be in. And then he just Union scrambles them. But I mean, that offerings, both those offerings just did nothing. They were just 2 dead cards plus mid. I mean, it's like a -3 for Shrink here. And you can just see where Ursus has 7 cards and Shrink has 3. And Shrink went second, so he got to 5 cards before Ursus got to 4. Shrink had a natural +1. And now he's down 4 cards. This is looking really, really good for Ninjetti. But Shrink's gonna chain the Lost Win. Is he thinking? Yeah, I definitely think you picked the XY here. The other two are just vanillas. Pick the XY. It has the highest attack, and it's the only one with an effect, so probably just lost win that one. I guess you could lost win the Y, so it can't equip to the X, but then he can just banish them, and you kind of like lose your lost wind. So definitely just equip it to the XY. Make that thing useless. Interestingly enough, this is like completely useless now, where it's like you can't even get it. Like if he did it to the Y, then he could just banish the X and the Y. I guess he probably doesn't have a second XY, but he could like get this Y off the field eventually with like equip a Z or something, or you know, do something. Like he could get this Y off the field eventually, but this, if it's lost wind, is just like stuck. Like it is just stuck on the field. Unless you run the super secret tech Obelisk the Tormentor. The Lucas Gaylord keeps circle jerking. So there goes the Z. Man, so he has a YZ as his only cards. Hopefully he gets an X here. And then I think Ursus is missing a Z. So Ursus is digging for a Z, or looking for a Z. Hopefully he gets one, and then Shrink is looking for an X. And that'll be how they get to their XYZs. Ursus also has 2 back row, which is just a really, so Ursus is in a very good spot here. 6 cards to 2, plus just the way, how those cards are laid out on the board is really nice. He's got 2 back row, 3 monsters. It's not like he's stuck with like 6 monsters. And Shrink, because his monsters are in the grave, his skill only works once per turn. So he can really only get like 1 body on the field per turn, maybe 2. So definitely going to be an uphill battle for Shrink here. He's thinking. Neither player has seen Union Hanger yet. And they're both at 12 cards. So we've gone through 16 cards. I think they both run, let's see, 3, maybe run 5, 6. So yeah, so Shrink runs 20. And I think Ursus also runs 23. Or does Ursus run 21? No, this got pulled. So yeah, he runs 20. So they both run, so 40 cards between 2 XYZ players. They went through 16 of 40. Neither one has seen a Union Hanger. That, or for some reason they're just not activating it, I guess. But he's going to banish his X. Or sorry, he's going to banish his YZ. Which is technically now the biggest monster on the field. So summons it in defense mode. I guess he's just scared of the lost wind, which there's a pretty good chance that one of those back row is lost wind. So he's just going to play around that by summoning in defense mode. And he is thinking. Do not know what he is thinking about, but so he had an X, so he could have made XYZ, but that probably would have just put him in the same situation as last duel, where he makes XYZ first. And there's also just more than likely, I feel like the read here on the back row is definitely lost wind, but he's gonna make the X and swing. And that's gonna go through. He doesn't take damage, but yeah, okay. I don't think 300 damage matters, but I mean, Shrink went down to like 400 last duel, so maybe it could. But doesn't take damage. Shrink used the Union combination skill. And now I still feel like Ursus is in a good spot. He's just going to trade pieces, which is fine. Damage stab. Okay, so this is what Ursus actually messaged me about this. Well, I think while they were playing, I'm assuming. But so Shrink says damage step here. This is a bluff. He doesn't have anything in the damage step. If he did, he might have like a kunai. I don't think that X head was special summoned, was it? It might have been. I don't remember if it was special summoned off the Union. If it was, he could have trying to bluff the Lost Wind. Which would cut the X-Head's attack in half. So he could be trying to bluff a Lost Wind. It's not. Ursus messaged me wondering if you can do that, if you're allowed to say damage step when you don't actually have anything in the damage step, and you are. You're allowed to bluff. You're not allowed to lie, but this is not a lie. He's not lying. You know, it's not like he's saying, I have something, you know, I have lost wind, let me think. And he doesn't. That would be a lie and that would be cheating, but just saying damage step is fine. You're also allowed to like hold a card in your hand. Like if they declare an attack and you hold a card in your hand and you just kind of like think, and it's nothing, it's like a dead black illusion ritual or something, but you bluff that it's Sphere Kribo, you're allowed to do that. You're allowed to bluff, but you can't lie. You can't misrepresent cards. You shouldn't reveal anything in private knowledge anyways, that's already not allowed. But if you do reveal something from private knowledge, like you say, I'm thinking if I want to activate my set Lost Wind here, and it's not Lost Wind, that is actually cheating. Number one, you're not supposed to reveal private knowledge, that can already get you in trouble. And number two, the fact that it's a lie will also get you in trouble, and that can give you a game loss, that can get you disqualified. So bluffing is fine, lying is not. And there is a difference between the two. Sometimes it's a little bit of a gray area, but there is a difference between lying and bluffing. So, back to the game. Ursus is going to banish X and Z here. So now he can finally get over this YZ and get some more pressure on the board. Again, Ursus still a lot of control here. He's going to go after that back row, force it out, so the Shrink doesn't quite get exactly what he wants off of it. I mean, I guess he only had 2 banished cards anyway, so. But now both of them are on the field and can be destroyed if Ursus has got anything to destroy them with. Do both players, I'm assuming one of those back row is, actually it might not be a Union Scramble. He's already used 2, so one of those back row might not be a Union Scramble. I feel like at this point it's guaranteed that he's got a Lost Wind and like a Book of Moon or something that Shrink needs to somehow find a way to play through, and it just looks like Shrink just doesn't have any back row. Those offerings, he hasn't really recovered from the offerings. The offerings, in my opinion, was just a straight -3. And you can just kind of see here where Ursus has 6 cards. I don't want to reveal what those back row cards are. Honestly, I almost want to do a poll and see if you guys actually want to like see players' hands, or if you just want to see the deck. You want to see the duel like play out as a spectator, or if you want to just see all the cards that they have to work with. But Ursus has got the 3 back row. Plus, he's got 6 total cards, whereas Shrink only has 4. And so that's a difference of 2, but Shrink was already up 1 because he went second. So that's technically a 3-card difference, and that's the offerings difference. The losing the 2 offerings, which didn't really do anything, and then not being able to draw is sort of like a delayed -3. And it just from card advantage and card economy, it looks like Shrink still hasn't really recovered from that. But down comes the second Union Hanger. Ninjetti got the first Union Hanger as well, which is, I don't know if you want to call this a +2, because like technically it's like calling Pot of Greed a +2. Like you get 2 cards, but Union Hanger doesn't really do much after that. It technically can, but the odds of it doing anything else after that are almost 0. So you just like, you get 2 cards and then the Union Hanger is just dead afterwards for the most part. It's mostly a card that's balanced around the ABC archetype, not the XYZ archetype. So really the only card that can use Union Hanger is a Y Dragon Head. Everything else is, I mean, X can't even use it, X Head, and then Z. You can search a Z with it, but you can't get the summon and equip effect from it. So it's just the Y, and I'm willing to bet the Shrink is out of Ys at this point. He's used 2. Am I like dodging? I'm trying to like dodge the cards with my mouse, but it doesn't matter. I do that up here where you gotta like dodge these face downs so we don't know what they are. But I feel like it's pretty much guaranteed that one is a Lost Wind. But he's going to go and attach 2 Z metal tanks here to the 1 Y. So now the Y is bigger than the XZ. This Y was special, or no, this Y was normal summon, sorry, off the Union Hanger. So it can't be Lost Wind. Lost Winded. And so Shrink is praying that Ursus does not have a book or offerings here, but the odds are definitely not in his favor, just given how many cards Ursus has left and the fact that he hasn't played any books or offerings. So I feel like it's near guaranteed that he has one. But Shrink thinking. He's got banish plays available, I think. can make an XZ, but I feel like it's pretty much over. Shrink's Lost Wind is banished. Did it get banished off Cyclone? If so, that's like backbreaking. Losing the Lost Wind like that. That is backbreaking. Losing the Lost Wind. His one Lost Wind gets cycloned. I must have missed that. If that did happen, that was really big. Losing the Lost Wind because it's banished and now it can't come back. And he does have the book. So not. I mean, he still has those cards, but at this point, it's just like Shrink can really only summon like one monster per turn. And he's just so far behind in monsters. I think it's pretty much over, and I guarantee at this point Ursus has at least one Lost Wind. Because there's no way, he's not activating these back row. There's just no way. It's like one book, one Lost Wind, something like that. But he's got at least one Lost Wind. And it looks like Shrink is trying, he doesn't want to make an XYZ. He doesn't want to like have to be the first to make the XYZ and then just fall into the my XYZ, your XYZ, my XYZ, your XYZ, you win type scenario. And it looks like he's just not really going to have a choice. And even whenever, again, it doesn't really matter what Shrink summons, it's going to get Lost Winded. But we'll see what Ursus wants to make. Scramble. You're mostly just looking for the XYZs and the scrambles. That's all that really matters. And a Lost Wind, I guess you should pay attention if they have a Lost Wind in the graveyard, it'll reset itself. But here comes the XYZ. He can banish. He's going to banish the Union Scramble to get a Z for discard fodder, I guess. Did he not grab? Never mind. I thought he might have had an X banished. You would definitely want to grab that. Yeah, so he's going to go ahead and pitch that. A little interesting that I think, did Ursus maybe forget that he didn't have that he couldn't do damage? I feel like Ursus like did that to try and go for game and then like realized afterwards the skill prevented him from doing damage this turn, so he can't actually go for game. But Shrink has got 2 cards to work with. Plenty of stuff to banish. But let's go quick. He's got the Ys, the Zs, 1X, so he has XYZ online. It's gonna get Lost Winded. I couldn't imagine a world where Ursus doesn't have Lost Wind. There's an X. There's a Z. There's the Y, so he is gonna make his XYZ first. Show me Lost Wind. Think for piece of shit. What does that mean? I'm just kidding. Think for position. Okay, so he's deciding if he wants to do attack or defense. I mean, I don't... It's probably defense, just for Lost Wind. So he's going to do attack. A little risky if the Lost Wind comes down. We'll see what he's thinking. Banish the Union Scramble, get back an X. And so he's got discard. He can start discarding some stuff and start firing stuff off, but Ursus is just going to, I mean, it's going to get Lost Winded, but, and on top of that, I think, actually, is Ursus spent? Unless he has a Union Scramble, he needs an X. Where is his X's? What? Am I missing something? How does he have? Oh, I think he brought an X back to his hand. Okay, so he should have an X in his hand. So, yeah, Ursus will have. Shrink can start discarding and popping stuff, but Ursus, it's going to be Lost Winded. And if by some miracle it's not, then Ursus is going to have his own XYZ next turn and just get rid of Shrinks. So Shrink has as YZ and most of his fusions available. Ursus has a YZ and only 1 Union Scramble left in the deck. So Shrink has got some pieces that he might be able to draw into if he can last here. So there's the effect. There's the Lost Wind that we saw coming. So book. So that's why he played it. And I guess in that case, it didn't really matter if he played it in attack or defense. It's going to get lost winded, and then if you book it, it doesn't matter if it's an attack or defense. It's going to go to face down defense. But might as well just be in attack mode. Because if he doesn't have lost wind, then he's in attack mode and you can use it. So attack mode was the correct position in my opinion. But down comes one face down. And that was actually, interestingly enough, Ursus I think was locked out of spots due to he had a fusion monster here and you can't really get rid of that. So, but now that the YZ was destroyed, he can make his own XYZ. Here, so maybe Shrink should have targeted a back row, I guess. I don't really think it matters. But he could have targeted a back row, and then Ursus still wouldn't be able to make XYZ here, but he may not make XYZ here anyways. And he forces out Shrink's Union Scramble. So this is definitely just like back and forth. When both players have access to like Union Scramble and their XYZ monsters, it's literally just XYZ into XYZ into XYZ into XYZ. But we'll see what Ursus wants to make here. He can make the XYZ. See, if Shrink didn't pop the fusion here, this wouldn't be happening, but I don't really know if it's worth it to like delay this from happening. Because I mean, if he chose a back row card, he would just chain the Lost Wind and he wouldn't even get anything out of it, so. But man, Ursus doesn't even need to discard. He's still got 2 back row. He's got a 28 and a 24. Shrink can make an XYZ. He's got 1 card that he can pitch, plus Union Scramble, which could allow him to pitch another card. When he makes the XYZ, it will reset this Lost Wind. I think he's got a Lost Wind in his grave, yeah. We'll see what he wants to do. He's thinking. Definitely a lot of stuff, a lot of moving parts to XYZ. Again, it's like they do stuff on the field, like you can attach and equip and stuff on the field. Then you always got to think about the skill play to banish and make, and then you got to think about the union combination play, or sorry, union combination is a skill. Union scramble play to recycle your pieces, and so it's just like the 3 stages of XYZ: having them on the field, having them in the graveyard, and then recycle for the skill, and then recycling them with Union Scramble. And both players having access to those tools make these mirror matches very long with a lot of moving parts. But he's going to use the skill. Ursus won't be taking any damage this turn. He's going to banish. Did he banish X and Z? Or sorry, Y, Z and Y. So that's going to reset the Lost Wind. I'm not sure what the plan is. Does he have a Book of Moon or something? I feel like that's pretty much not going to do anything. He's going to banish a Union Scramble to get a Y or a Z back. I don't think there's any play. I'm not entirely sure if this is the best course of action. Like you kind of got to just play the odds, but I literally think that it does not matter what he summons here or what he does. He's playing into a Lost Wind. And Ursus might have another one, I don't know. Or he might have Book or Offerings. So I'm not convinced it matters, but yeah, he's just gonna grab another monster. He still has an XYZ that he can make with this Z and this X and this Y. Did I just hover a Book? Oh no, I think I heard this one. I thought like my mouse went through and revealed what these back row cards were. But Ursus just gets to take his pick here on what he wants to pop. Shrink doesn't have any back row. How many back row does he even have? He's gone through 2 books, 2 offerings, so he may not even have any left. Or he probably has another book, another Lost Wind, another Union Scramble left in the deck to try and make something happen. But he's got 6 cards, so at this point, if you're playing the game, I'm not going to do it because it just takes too much. Like, I want to see what's actually happening on the field, but at this point, if you're playing, you because XYZs are solved deck for the most part in terms of what ratios people are running. You can literally just look at your opponent's graveyard and banish and field and figure out what their last 6 cards are. Or at least figure out like 4 or 5 of them. And that can help. But yeah, so Ursus is just going to go through and just start popping these things. He's not going to discard a card to pop anything else though. So he's going to leave that Y face down. And he knows it's a Y, but it was added to the hand from Union Scramble. So Shrink again. Gotta decide he's got XYZ if he wants to make it. But he is playing into an already active... It might have been a mistake making the YZ and allowing the Lost Wind to reset itself, because now if he makes the XYZ this turn, the Lost Wind will stop it. But he did X and Z, I believe. And he may not have... He's got 1 Union Scramble left, and he banished his X. So he may not even be able to make another XYZ this duel before Ursus closes us out. Discards a dead hanger. Gets Lost Winded. So he needed to do that to get rid of the Lost Wind, but that Lost Wind was there because he made the YZ. Again, I don't think it matters. It's almost semantics at this point, because I think that Ursus just has all the answers in the last 2 back row. But Shrink is not going down without a fight. That's how you get this far. Every second, milk every second. What are the odds that Ursus's internet goes out? And there's a Cosmic Cyclone, so that's going to banish. I think it's just over after that. Yep, Shrink knows it. So next turn, he can just discard both cards that he has for XYZ, pop both these cards, and swing directly. So it's 100% over. At this point, and the Cosmic Cyclone clutches it. Popping it, and there you go. So Ninjetti Ursus takes it 2-0. Bit of a spree of 2-0 finals. But huge congratulations to Ninjetti. Shrink, not the best game 2, but man, these XYZ Union matches, honestly, I do not like these mirror matches. They are very daunting, especially to commentate. But huge congratulations to Ninjetti. I know that he's played a couple Winnaboxes. I'm not sure. I don't think he's topped. So this is his first top, and he literally goes the whole distance and wins the event. Like, talk about making the most out of an opportunity. I feel like that's honestly like pretty inspirational to like players who are like, oh, should I play in the Winnabox? Like, what if I don't top? What if I don't do well? Just keep playing. Like keep playing. Get a good list, good mindset. Good plays, and you will get an opportunity. So huge congratulations to Ninjetti. Shrink. Another solid performance from Shrink. He topped Winnabox number 5. He topped the Speed Duel League series, and now he's topped Winnabox number 6. So definitely one of the better, if not the best, XYZ Union player out there right now. Just constantly doing well with the deck. And XYZs in general did pretty well this tournament. We'll go into the deck breakdown. But again, huge congratulations to Ninjetti. Congrats. He is the Winnabox number 6 champion. And then we're going to go ahead and get into the deck breakdown now and give you guys a little bit more of an idea of what happened this tournament and what decks were played. So stay tuned for that. Okay, guys, we are back. We've got our deck breakdown graphic pulled up here. And let's just go ahead and take a look. So as always, we go from bottom to top here. But starting at the bottom here, so we've got XYZ Paranoid. Very interesting. I've seen this a couple times where they run the Union monsters and they run the Moth package. I have not played it. I almost kind of want to test it, but I've seen it a couple times. I've seen TCG Philosopher, aka Danique DeJong, play it, but it topped, so it's a decent deck for sure, being able to go into the fusions and then also having access to Moth. So definitely be prepared for that matchup. Very, very rare, but if you've never played against it, you may misplay against it. And then we've got Warrior Moth. Always good to see an old school deck like Warrior Moth show up, play, and top. So just the one, but still good to see Warrior Moth can still do really well. And Moth decks in general, So we've got Paranoid, we've got Warrior Moth. Moth hasn't really gone anywhere. It's definitely not quite what it was, but it's still a very, very powerful deck that you need to be prepared for. Have your Cosmic Cyclones ready, whatever. We've got Viral Despair. One played, didn't top. Tunes actually played. We've got Skull Servants. Rat Monarchs, which is just IC Monarchs, but they use Giant Rat as their foot soldier to try and float into tribute fodder. We've got Nice My Burn, very, very interesting, where you can simply do damage. I think that's Amazoness Swordswoman and things like that, and like Shrink and whatnot to make your monsters burn your opponent, be able to do damage to your opponent, and then that will trigger Nice My and allow you to pop cards, and that's how you can get some pretty nice pluses. Moth OTK, which most Moth decks tried to OTK anyways. The difference between Moth OTK and something up here, let's see, Dark Moth up here, is whether or not they run a Dark Engine to try and get the OTK. Personally, I think Dark Moth is better than just pure Moth OTK, just because to get the OTK you need pieces, and having the Allure of Darknesses will help you get your necessary pieces. So I would imagine Dark Moth being more consistent than just pure Moth OTK, not having any draw power. But one of the advantages is you won't have to run Allure of Darkness, and so you can just have more back row hate and more consistency pieces overall. So which one is more consistent? Tough to really know, but I would expect Dark Moth to, more people play Dark Moth, so I'm assuming that one is just a little bit more consistent. Insect Moth, which is just another Moth variant, only they run mostly insect monsters to round out the deck. Inner Conflict Warriors, still around, but nowhere near as popular as it used to be. Inner Conflict Spellcasters, which is just Inner Conflicts with Spellcasters as their foot soldiers. And like Dark Red Enchanter and things like that. We've got Inner Conflict Fairies, very interesting. Did not top, but still always good to see unique decks. One Gaia, one Dragon Caller. Good to see that some people are still trying to make those decks work, though I don't think they will. TP Warriors is actually something that a lot of people are not really keen on, but usually the people who play it do really well with it. So I still think the TP Warriors is really good. I think it's a lot better than Inner Conflict Warriors. I thought it was better than Inner Conflict Warriors last format, but I especially think that TP Warriors is definitely slept on as a really, really strong deck. I know that Blaze really likes it. Relinquished, still only 2 people, man. It's fucking nobody wants to play Relinquished. It's tough. It's definitely like a meta thing where it's like a lot of people have got Book of Moons, people have got like Offerings, and just in general, like Icy Warrior taking your shit sucks. So lot of stuff that Relinquished has to deal with. Lost Wind can even like fuck it, and everybody's running Lost Wind. So it's tough. Relinquished got some cool toys to play with, but it's definitely tough. The Illusion Faceless Mage, though, I think is the way to play Relinquished. Like play around that and just recycling your Relinquished, I think is the way to play Relinquished if you want to play it. Spellproof Armor, a deck that a lot of people thought would be tier 1 or tier 2. I guess you could give it tier 2 status. I'd give it like a low tier 2. But we saw 4 people play it. We did see 1 top, so it's still around. It's still it's got one of the higher topping rates. I think it's like the 4th highest tops. So it's still really solid. Which I guess if it's number 4, you know, it would be tier 2. So, but definitely not quite what a lot of people thought it would be, because at the end of the day, you're still drawing. I think one of the biggest things is they did get Colossus or whatever it is, the 2300 vanilla, but he's got 1200 defense, and that just hurts. And then XYZ Unions being bigger than it, Inner Conflict, like their Monarch that they summon, is bigger than it. So maybe we'll get Cybertech Alligator, and then I think SBA will make some decent waves. But just any deck that runs vanillas, it just feels so bad drawing into those vanillas. But maybe SPA, I mean, it's only a matter of time, you know, if we start getting stronger machine archetypes. I think it's only a matter of time before Spellproof Armor just becomes really, really busted. Giant Rat Stall is something I've seen a lot of, where it's just they loop the Zombina and the Giant Rat and the Haunted Shrine, and they just stall you out, burn you out. Definitely a very degenerate deck, and Speed Duels has just had its fair share of degeneracy over its 2-year lifespan so far, but nobody topped with it, so we win this tournament. Then we got Magnet Warriors, 6 people playing, 1 person won. Magnet Warriors went undefeated last win a box, so at least 1 person topped with it, 6 people played with it, so people are still trying to make it work. We've got Dark Moth, surprisingly nobody topped with it. Dark Moth, very annoying deck, just very, it's so OTK focused, and they either like they've got the nuts or they don't. I don't like it. I feel like it just adds this variance to the game that I don't like. But I guess just have your Waking the Dragon. They just run Breakers and Night Beams, and they just blow all of your back row and then try and OTK you with Now they run Santa Claus, so if you like set a monster for the turn to try and like build up resources, because the more resources you build up, the harder it is to OTK. You're not OTKing someone if they have like 2 set monsters and 3 back row. Like, it's just good luck with that. In speed duels, at least. But now they, you know, if you just set 1 monster, they Santa Claus it off and then paranoid the Santa Claus, and that's how they get through your 1 set monster for the turn. So very, very annoying. If they just see the nuts, nothing you can do. Looks like nobody saw the nuts this tournament because none of them topped. So then we got Apprentice Monarchs. Definitely, in my opinion, was the 2nd most popular deck. But it looks like it's taken a little bit of a dip. Only 6 people playing it, but 3 people top. So 50% top here. So Apprentice Monarchs still doing really well. And I still think if you're going to mirror match between Interconflict Monarchs and Apprentice Monarchs, I think Apprentice Monarchs has the slight edge. Guardians of the Tomb, a lot of people play. 8 people. I think this is the Theg, guys. Theg. I don't know how to pronounce it. Sorry if I mispronounced your stupid name. But Guardian, I think that was mostly, God, I don't remember who. Was it Theg or was it, I should know this, but this was manipulated. Like, a bunch of people showed up and all decided to play the same deck, and I think they were all on the same team. But none of them topped because they're all very bad players. So I'm just messing with you guys. But the Guardians of the Tomb skill, you basically run your trap monsters, and then whenever you summon your trap monsters, you get to draw cards. There's a couple of limits on it. It's not as simple as that. But it's a decent deck, you know, it's good, but it looks like it did fairly well early on whenever nobody knew how to play against it, but it looks like people have kind of figured it out. And now you can have 8 people play it, and you know, it used to be 1 person was playing it, and he did really well with it, but now, I think it was Toomey, was doing really well with it. But now I just think that people are used to playing against it, and now you can have 8 people play against it, and none of them top with it. And then we have XYZ Unions. This deck actually, for the first time, I feel has lived up to its hype this tournament. This is probably the first tournament where I feel like it's genuinely lived up to its hype. The past 2 major proving tournaments, which were the Speed Duel League Series and Winnabox number 5, we saw double-digit people play the deck, but only 1 or 2 people top with it. And so when you've got like 12 people playing and you've got 1 person topping, that's a bad performance. And that happened 2 tournaments in a row for XYZ. But now we have 12 people playing it and almost 6 people topping with it. That's a huge improvement. The most topped by far. I mean, it's double the next closest deck almost. So this to me was a real good statement tournament that XYZ is still really, really good, because Winnabox 5, Speed Duel League Series number 1, I was not impressed. Having 12, I think it was like 12 people play it and then 11 people played it. Like 2 out of 12 topped, 1 out of 11 topped, that's not good. But it looks like people are starting to get a little bit more accustomed to how the deck is supposed to work. Again, there are a lot of moving parts to XYZ Unions, and it looks like people are starting to get more comfortable with them. And so now they're going to top more. So there are a lot of outs to XYZ Unions, and maybe people just weren't running them because XYZ wasn't doing that well. I don't know, but this to me was definitely a statement tournament from XYZ, that it was, you know, if only 1 person had topped again with this tournament, I think I would have written this deck off as just like way overhyped. But this was a much needed bounce back and turnaround for XYZ Unions. And as you saw, the mirror was the final. So 2 XYZ players ended up in the finals, and I think actually 3 of the top 4 were XYZs. I think it was Danique finished top 4. Was Danique? I don't remember. I should know this, but I'm swamped with work, so you're just gonna have to deal with lackadaisy Winnaboxes for a little bit. Lackadaisy videos, Winnabox videos. But I think 3 of the top 4 were XYZ Unions. So not only did they dominate the top cut, but they really dominated. They got 3 people into the top 4, 2 people into the finals, and they won the whole event. So definitely a statement tournament from XYZ Unions. And then we see at the top, pretty much at the top of every chart so far that we've done, is IC Monarchs. That's Interconflict Monarchs. 16 people play it, 2 topped. 2. That is such a hard drop. At last tournament, it was like swap these 2 numbers, where it's like XYZ Unions had 12 people play, 2 people top. IC Monarchs had 16 people play, 5 top. Now they just completely swapped. The number of players has stayed the same. The number of tops is completely swapped. So IC Monarchs, I'm not sure what happened. Personally, I don't think Icy Monarchs are that good. I see the deck lists. There's no innovation. There's no like adaptation. There's no evolution to these Monarch decks. They're just running the same stuff every time. And I feel like when you do that, you are just opening yourself up to have your deck solved. And that could just be something where it's like Monarch players need to go back to the drawing board and, you know, maybe look at a couple cards and sub some stuff in, but it's definitely just, there's almost no innovation to this deck at all. I'd say the deck lists from 1 month ago and the deck lists today are virtually identical, minus like one card. And it's just, you can't do that and remain a top deck. People know what your back row are, they know what you're playing, they know what you're setting. But you could say that about XYZs, where there's not, they are kind of locked into, kind of like old Relinquished, where it's like the first 15 cards that XYZ Union decks play are all the same. And then it's just the last 5, or like the side deck that really sees change. But it can kind of like be like that with Monarchs, where I feel like people just net deck a Monarch deck, go into the tournament, and just play with their brain off, thinking they're playing the best deck. And it's just, Monarchs have definitely gotten complacent. I feel the players have gotten very complacent. But there you go. So Rise of the XYZs. XYZs did so well this tournament, and a bit of a drop off of Monarchs for sure. At least for this tournament. Who knows, they could bounce back. Next tournament, we'll have to wait and see. Because Winner Box number 7 is coming. But that is it for this tournament breakdown. I hope you guys enjoyed. Speaking of Winner Box number 7 signups are taking place right now. Let's see, what time is it? At the timing of this video, you guys will have hopefully 30 hours or so to sign up. The signups take place a week in advance in the Speed Duel League Discord. So if you're not in the Discord, you need to join the Discord if you actually want. But if you're watching this video and you want to sign up, if you want to partake in the largest Speed Duel tournaments around currently, the Speed Duel League Winnabox, the signups are going on right now. The tournament starts in, by the time this video goes up, like maybe 35 hours. So not a whole lot of heads up, but again, the heads up is you get a week heads up in the Speed Duel League Discord. So, and to sign up, you need to join the Speed Duel League Discord anyway. So join the Speed Duel League Discord. The link is in the description below. After you join, click the green check mark at the bottom of the screen and then navigate to the Winnabox section in the sign up channel. Go and click on that and type in that channel that you would like to join. Then send me the deck list that you'd like to use for the tournament. You can PM it to me. My Discord name is Alum Lion. And then that's it. You're in the tournament. So if you have any other questions, you can PM me or leave a comment below. Or you can read the graphic on the screen, and hopefully that'll answer most of your questions. I also highly recommend reading the rulebook. There's a rulebook channel right below the sign-up channel. You can read that, and that should answer almost all of your questions. But again, if you have any that are not answered, feel free to ask me. And yeah, so that's Winnabox number 7. And then I would like to announce in this video, because the tournament will technically happen before the next Winnabox Finals video, Speed Duel League Series number 2, that is the return of the largest Speed Duel tournament ever. We had over 100 people play last time. Speed Duel League Series number 2 is happening. It's been 2 months, and it is our bi-monthly free entry $500 cash prize tournament. So hopefully I'll announce it sometime in the next week or two, but it is going to happen at the end of February. We do it once every 2 months. The last one was at the end of December, which means this one's going to be at the end of February. It looks like there's a perfect day for it. I think Saturday is one of the last days of February. I think it's the 27th. And that's going to be when Speed Duel League Series number 2 is. I'm announcing in this video because the finals for Winnabox number 7 will happen after Speed Duel League Series number 2. But there you go. So there's your heads up. Definitely join the Discord if you're interested in that. Join the Discord and sign up for Winnabox number 7. Those are going to be our 2 tournaments this month, both free. So if you're into speed duels and you're not in the Speed Duel League Discord, what are you doing? But that's it for this video, guys. Congratulations again to Ninjetti Ursus for his victory. Huge showing from XYZ Unions. Icy Monarchs, not so much. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys in the next video.